Okay, so we have still not gotten access to our book digitally yet. So what's going to happen, I just bought it on my Kindle, so when you see me looking off to the side, it's because I'm reading it off a screen. I'm going to go ahead and read the first 2 chapters, which are for Friday's assignment. If we still don't have access, then I'll just continue to do this. I want to get it in your hands, that way you can go back into the passage and reread for details. But right now, this is the best we have until we get some more information from central office on what to do. So our book is In the Year of the Boar and Jackie Robinson, and there is the front cover. Chapter 1, which they're not actually done by chapter names in this book, they're done by months. So the first one is January, and the chapter title is Chinese New Year. In the year of the dog, 4645, there lived halfway across the world from New York a girl called Sixth Cousin, otherwise known as Bandit. One winter morning, a letter arrived at the house of Wong from her father, who had been traveling the 4 seas. On the stamp sat an ugly, bald bird. The paper was blue. When Mother read it, she smiled, but the words made Grandmother cry and Grandfather angry. No one gave Sixth Cousin even the slightest hint of why. It is so unfair, she thought. Must I drool like Chow Chow, eyeing each mouthful until someone is good and ready to toss a scrap my way? If Father was here, he'd tell. He would never treat me like a child, like a girl, like a nobody. Still, Bandit dared not ask. How many times had she been told that no proper member of an upright Confucian family ever questioned the conduct of elders, or that children must wait until invited to speak? Countless times. Only the aged were considered wise. Even the opinion of her father, the youngest son of the patriarch, did not matter. No wonder he had gone away to seek his fortune. She tried to pretend nothing had happened, but it was hard. All day the elders behaved unnaturally in her presence. No unintended slights, quick nods, easy smiles, teasing remarks, or harsh words. They were so kind. Too kind. Bandit felt as if she had sprouted a second head, and they were all determined to ignore politely the unsightly growth. That evening, as she and 4th Cousin sat on the bed playing pick-up beans, she confided in her best friend. Something's happened. Something big has happened. Oh, said the older girl, you are always imagining things. Remember the time you told everyone there was a goldfish swimming in the bamboo trees? It was only a fallen kite. Remember the time you overheard the cook plotting to murder the washerwoman? He was only sharpening his cleaver to kill a hen. Bandit scowled as she scattered the dried lima beans. That was then. This is now. All right, sighed her dearest friend. What has happened now? That's it. I don't know, she answered. Well, then let's play. My turn. Sixies. No, shouted Bandit, grabbing the other girl's hand. Think. What would make Mother smile, Grandmother cry, and Grandfather angry? 4th Cousin shrugged her shoulder and began to unbraid her hair. She was always fussing with her hair. Bandit thought and thought, annoyed at her friend's silence, sorry that no matter how 4th Cousin tried, she would never be pretty. Soon the coals were dying, and suddenly the room was cold. The cousins scrambled under the covers. The beans tumbled onto the floor. Bandit knew she should pick them up, but she just stayed put. She had thinking to do. Finally, Bandit had the answer. 4th Cousin was asleep. Wake up! Listen, I've got it. Remember the time the enemy planes bombed the city for 2 straight days, and we had to hide in the caves with only hard-boiled eggs to eat? What happened when we came home? Who cares? Father brought us a pony, that pony of a dog. Mother thought it was cute and smiled, but Grandmother was frightened and cried and hid behind the moon gate. And Grandfather was very angry. He said, youngest son, are you mad? Unless you mean for us to eat this beast, take him away this minute. His voice was as cold as the northwest wind. Bandit stood up and threaded her hands into her sleeves, as Grandfather did. She cleared her throat the way he did whenever he was displeased and stomped up and down the bed. Fourth cousin never opened an eye. She turned on her side and curled up like a shrimp. Bandit pounced on her. Don't you see? Father is bringing the dog back. Never. Bandit thought it over and sighed. You're right. You're always right. Quietly, very quietly, she slipped under the covers. Sleep still would not come. Bandit heard the sounds of laughter and voices, footfalls and bicycle bells as guests departed from one court then another. It was the season for merrymaking, when the new year approaches and old debts are paid. At last the lanterns along the garden walk were snuffed out and the room was dark. Bandit reached out. Fourth cousin's hand was warm. Through the wall came the faint strains of a song. Mother was playing Father's record again. The music carried Bandit away thousands of miles to the sea. Its waters... Beckett. Its waters were not muddy like the river of golden sands that churned at the bottom of the mountain of the 10,000 steps on which the house of Wong was perched. The sea was calm, deep green like jade. As far as the heavens, the sky soared. In the distance, something blew, a boat in the shape of a bird. Slowly it floated toward shore. She shaded her eyes to get a better look. On the deck was Father. She shouted and waved, but he did not seem to hear. Father! Father! She shouted until she was hoarse. Then she ran into the sea, forgetting she could not swim. Soon he was just a fingertip away. Father! Father! Her cries angered the sleeping demons of the dark, and they sent a wall of water to quiet the intruder. Splash! She awoke. Her face was wet. So she was asleep. That all was all a dream. That thing where she went into the ocean and she couldn't swim. That was a dream she had. Look what you've made me do, Bandit. She sat up to find fourth cousin gone and awaiting marriage. The servant sprawled on the floor. Beside the old woman was a shattered water urn. All about the offending beans. So the beans she forgot to pick up the night before. Before Bandit could apologize, awaiting marriage screwed up her skinny face and wailed. The sight was ugly enough to frighten the devil himself. Cook was right. 100 wedding trunks could not buy awaiting marriage even a hunchbacked, lame-footed husband. So she must not be very pretty. Bandit, I've got you this time. This time you're going to have to answer to your grandmother. I'm going to show her the pieces. The servant stood up, shaking a fragment in Bandit's face. Bandit brushed her away. It's nothing but crockery. No Ming urn. Awaiting marriage squeezed out a wicked smile. Aha! You've forgotten it's New Year's time. Yes, Bandit, New Year's time. Giggling, the servant scurried out. Oh, Bandit was in trouble. Deep trouble. Grandmother was the matriarch of the House of Wong. What she ordered was always done. What she said was always so. How many times had she warned against breaking things during the holiday? It would bring bad luck. Bad luck for the next 365 days. And if anything made Grandmother unreasonable, it was bad luck. Quickly, Bandit got out of bed, used what was left in fourth cousin's water urn to wash, dress, and plait her hair, and then began seriously to clean the room. That was another of Grandmother's dictums. Not a speck of dust. Not a misplaced article. Everything must be in harmony to welcome the new year. As she was straightening out the shoes in the bottom of the tall rosewood bureau, a waiting marriage appeared at the door. She grinned as if meeting the matchmaker. Young mistress, she said, glowing. Young mistress, the matriarch wishes to see you in her quarters. So Grandmother wants Bandit to go to her. Now, and with an extravagant bow, the tattletale removed herself. Bandit felt as if she had been summoned by an irate emperor. This time the punishment would be more than harsh words or 3 strokes of a bamboo cane. Much more. But she had to obey. No one ever disobeyed the matriarch. Quickly, she ran to the washstand and tucked a towel inside the seat of her pants. Still, there must be some way to soften Grandmother's heart. She must think. and quickly before another offense was added to the first. Think, who could help? Yes, of course, naturally. Ninth cousin, otherwise known as Precious Coins. He was the baby of the clan, the favored grandchild. Whenever Bandit needed a few pennies to buy melon seeds or candied plums, she sent Precious Coins to ask grandmother for them. The matriarch never refused him. If he would shed a bucket of tears for Bandit, perhaps her life would be spared. Where could that boy be? He hated to walk, loved being carried. With all the cousins getting ready for the festivities, he was probably still sitting on his bed like a Buddha waiting for a pair of feet. She ran out of the door, along the gallery past Mother's room, through the rock garden into the next court which belonged to Third Uncle. She tiptoed past his study. Uncle hated to be disturbed when he was doing accounts, and that's all he ever did. She heard him muttering as he clicked the beads on his abacus, figuring out new ways to pocket a cent. Poor third aunt. No matter how she screamed and schemed, her husband refused to loosen his purse strings. Unlike father, he never squandered money for gifts, but he seldom reaped joy either. Precious Coins was sitting on his bed. As soon as Bandit stepped into his room, he held out his arms. She could not resist giving him a big hug. He was as cute as a dumpling and just as round. See grandmother now? Yes, but no pennies today. When I set you down, you must hold on to my leg. Don't let go, no matter what. A new game, see? Hold leg, no let go. If you let go, you lose. No let go. Precious Coin held up his arms again. Scooping him up, she walked slowly along the pathway past the lotus pond and crossed the half-moon bridge to the matriarch's quarters. At the threshold, Bandit hesitated. What took more courage, to enter or to run away? Inside sat all the women of the older generation, even grand-auntie, who was 93. It only proved grandmother's warning to be true. Bad luck. It was already here. Granddaughter, you may come in. Holding Precious Coins even tighter, Bandit inched toward the carved ebony chair in the center of the room. She kept her eyes on grandmother's bound feet, which rested on a stool. She set the boy down. At once, he plopped to the floor and put his arms around her left leg. Good morning, grandmother, she whispered, still keeping her eyes on grandmother's feet. They were very tiny, like little red peppers. Look at me, child. I have something important to say. 100 lashes, 10,000 characters to copy, 1,000 hours in her room. If only she had picked up the beans. Here's a picture of Bandit with Precious Coins around her leg, and then they're kneeling down in front of grandmother. Blinking away the tears, Bandit looked up. Her eyes met the matriarch's. No one spoke. Bandit looked around, searching for a friendly face among the women. No one smiled, not even Mother. Granddaughter, today is one of the saddest days in my long life. In all our lives. You, my 6th grandchild, must go away. Far away. No! How can I? Bandit thought. I'm too young. Who will take care of me? A tear fell, then another. Grandmother, she begged, let me have another chance. I'll be careful. I'll never ever, as long as I live, break another thing during the holidays. Please don't send me away. What are you talking about? I'm not sending you away. You are going because your father has sent for you and your mother. He has decided not to return to Chungking. He plans to make America his home. Your grandfather has agreed. The letter! No wonder Mother had smiled, Grandmother had cried, and Grandfather had been so angry. Oh, Father, she thought, at long last we'll be together again. Bandit could not help smiling. She was brimful of happiness. But then she saw the sadness on Grandmother's face and ran to comfort her. Boom! Bandit fell. True to his word, Precious Coins had not let go of her leg. Then all the women of the House of Wong gathered around to fuss over her. Oh, you poor thing, they cried. What's to become of you? Exiled like a criminal to a distant land, with no clan to nurture you, surrounded by strangers. Strangers who aren't even Chinese. And those cowboys and Indians, what kind of place is that for a child to grow up in, dodging bullets and arrows? You'll starve. Imagine eating nothing but warm puppies and raw meat. So this is what all these women think America is like. They think it's cowboys and Indians with bullets and arrows flying. They think there's nothing to eat except for warm puppies and raw meat. How will you become civilized? America does not honor Confucius. America is foreign, so foreign. On and on they went, wailing like paid mourners at a funeral. But Bandit was not afraid. She had faith in her father. Nothing awful will happen, she told herself. No bad luck. The year of the boar would bring travel, adventure, and double happiness. The final day of the year of the dog lasted until dawn. So what that means is, like in the Chinese New Year, there's an animal that it's the year of. So this would be like, it'd be New Year's Eve if it's the last day of the year for us before we have New Year's Day. So this is the last day of the year of the dog. And then in the book tomorrow we'll start the year of the boar. So she's saying the year of the boar is when she moves to America. And that's when she'll have travel, adventure, and double happiness. The final day of the year of the dog lasted until dawn. No one slept, not even precious coins. For tradition had long decreed that a bad dream on any New Year's Eve was an omen of a bad tomorrow. To make sure no one had a nightmare, all the beds in the house of Wong stood empty until the skies were lit by the dawn and the danger passed. The lofty hall of ancestors was festooned with holiday banners and graced with clansmen from near and far. They formed clusters of color like the glass pieces in a kaleidoscope. Everybody's gown was of bright silk or brocade, and many were embroidered with gold and silver threads and lined in fur or stitched with sequins and pearls. A few gowns, like Bandit's, betrayed the 12-course dinner the clansmen had consumed earlier. It did not matter. At the New Year's feast no one scolded, even if a barbarian should wash his face in the soup. A few faces, like Bandit's, could use a washing, even in soup. They were streaked with ash, for they had leaned too close to the sizzle of firecrackers. But even so, no cross words. On New Year's Eve, exceptions were the rule. Gamblers sat at a dozen tables, chatted and cheered as they vied at mahjong, cards, and rhyming couplets, while they would be singing warriors and courtesans tagged after the tunes the musicians played, and servants, spinning like tops, circled the floor with drinks and delicacies. At each stop they collected a generous tip. Near daybreak of New Year's Day, even Third Uncle forgot himself. Before the altar, which was laden with offerings for the ancestors, Grandfather sat telling stories to the very old and the very young. Many in his audience were fighting sleep. Their stomachs were filled with sweets, their pockets with red envelopes containing money from the elders, their heads with stories of monkey kings and fox fairies, noble ministers and celestial foods, loyal sons, forgetful magpies, the weaving maid who lived on the far side of the river of stars. No wonder they drooped. Not Bandit. She was wide awake, sitting cross-legged, holding hands with grand-uncle and his wife of 60 years who, for as long as Bandit could recall, had refused to address her husband. Both the artist and the former beauty had long forgotten his misdeed. The date of it, however, was enshrined in memory and dubbed Foul Friday. Perhaps in the beginning the wife might have relented. Then it became unthinkable. Now, in his old age, grand-uncle delighted in painting grand-auntie's portrait, sometimes with warts, sometimes with big feet or donkey grins. Always fancy. Bandit thought each picture worth 10,000 laughs. Secretly, she collected them, whispering, hold on, lost my place. Secretly, she collected them, whispering to grand-auntie that she did so on her behalf. Thus, both the artist and subject adored her. Thus, Bandit had become their official go-between. And so finally, the worthy peasant could sleep peacefully in his grave. Everyone applauded. Glancing up at the feuding husband and wife, Bandit saw tears in their eyes. If only, she thought, If only they could be friends again before I go away. Then they will not need a go-between. For the first time, Bandit felt a little sad to be going away.